Good morning, Jann Edmondson here of Jann Edmondson Photo and Art and jann.i.am on Instagram. Hope you're having a great morning, having coffee this morning. And I wanted to record the video to talk about some of the projects that I was doing recently around artist trading cards. Take a sip of that coffee. So artist trading cards have been around for a while, and essentially what they are, they're about the size of baseball cards, 2.5 by 3.5, and you know, they're usually cardstock and really meant for artists to be able to create sort of mini versions of some of their stuff and trade it with other artists. So it's a really cool way to you know, support your other artists and get, you know, little samples of their work. It's fun to share those things. Some people collect artist trading cards just of a particular theme. I saw one that was really cool on a group that was Frida Kahlo, the artist Frida Kahlo. She collected artist trading cards just of Frida Kahlo. So all these different artists, you know, did their own version of the portrait of Frida Kahlo, and it was really neat to see. But anyway, you can kind of sign up to be part of groups that do trading. Some people purchase them, whatever. I started doing them because I got this deal of artist trading cards paper when I ordered one time, and so I bought a few. And they sat there for the longest time, and then I took them out because I'm kind of running out of space for new canvases when I'm not doing something specific or custom work. But I still like to pour, and I still like to test things out. So I thought, oh, I'll just do it on these little cardstocks, and so I can test colors, and I can you know, test styles, and then easily store them. A little bit easier than a canvas. So, and they just came out so great. I just fell in love with them. I actually started producing more on purpose so that I can frame them or trade them or whatever the case may be. But they look great and I love them. I typically do the puddle pour approach and blow with a straw or something like that. I've been doing that for a long time, and I love it because I like the patterns that it makes. I love the little, you know, webbing. It's just pretty. Anyway, the paper that I used, here's another example, and here's some that I did recently of different colors. The paper that I use for this one was, I started with the paper that I had at the time, which is this Bristol vellum surface. The thing about pouring on paper is that, you know, obviously paper is absorbent, and in particular if it's untreated, and it'll warp, it'll just bubble, it'll kind of get all messed up. So there's a couple things that I do in prep to help combat that when I'm pouring on paper. The first is the type of paper. So you want to make sure you have a little bit of a thicker paper. This is 100 pound. It's a vellum surface, which is a smoother surface. I also have poured on paper in the past a specific acrylic paper. This is 246 pounds, so it's a pretty thick, hard cardstock. You don't really want to pour on like the lighter watercolor paper because it's a little more absorbent and it'll warp. So that's that. The first thing, you know, after the paper is I just seal it down to a work surface with painter's tape. Just make sure the sides are nice and sealed. Two things, it sort of helps the paper from getting too wet by getting, you know, paint up all in, you know, pouring, we get it everywhere. And then second, it just makes awesome border. So that's great. Third thing is sealing it. So I do seal it prior to pouring on it with gloss varnish. So gloss varnish, the Liquitex varnish, just a real thin coat. And the whole point is to make a little bit of a barrier. I mean, it's not entirely waterproof until it's fully cured, but it does give you a little bit of a barrier, and I've used it, and a lot of artists use varnish, of course, to finish your piece, but also to put a barrier between colors that you don't want to mix. So, if you're pouring something or if you're painting something, watercolor, acrylic, and it's not fully cured, and there's a risk of the paints mixing together, you can actually put varnish right over it, let it dry really quickly, and then pour, and the paints won't mix. It acts as a nice barrier. So I put 2 real thin coats here already. It's dried, so I am ready to pour. As far as my mix goes, for white, I always use the Artist Loft white. It just is the best white for the kind of patterns that I like. So I always use that. As far as my paint goes, I use a variety of different things. So often I'll use Handmade Modern. Of course, I'm in Target all the time, but I love the colors that they have. And in this case particular, I'm using pistachio and coral and teal. They have got some gorgeous colors. Sometimes I use, just because it's more expensive, but I'll sparingly and specifically use the golden fluid acrylics. The gold in particular I love. Where did that one piece go? I don't know if you can tell, but it is really gorgeous. Sorry, there's a glare there. It's so pretty. It's just a really pretty gold. So I love that one. This turquoise is really pretty too, and a lot of times in this case, what I did today was I actually poured a little white in my cup and then poured the turquoise in there. The colors are very strong, and so you get a really nice light blue from that. Other colors that I also love is at Michael's, the Martha Stewart line, the craft paints. So beautiful. Great gold, great glitter paints, just in general. They have a magenta that is just one of my favorites. So anyway, that's that. As far as the mix goes, 2-part additive, 1-part paint. Usually my additives are Floetrol, which is the Flood Floetrol from Home Depot. That big huge jug is $13, $14 there. Make sure you get the latex-based version. They have 2. And so I usually do about a 1-to-1 mix of paint and Floetrol, stir it up real good, add a little more Floetrol, stir it up real good, and then I'll top it off with water to get the consistency that I want. So for some pouring, like when I'm just pouring, on a canvas for cells, usually I'll pour just a teeny bit thicker. Like Anne Marie said, it's more like warm honey. For this, when I'm blowing with a straw or whatever, I like it to be a little bit thinner. So it's just a little bit thinner than warm honey, but it's not runny. It's not like watery. So maybe runny, not watery is I can't see it from the side, but it's pourable, if you can see that. I mix all of my paints the same consistency. For things like the golden paints where it's already fluid, you're going to add a little bit less of the Floetrol and obviously a little bit less water. Okay, so that's that. So I'm going to start just like I would do any of my pours. I usually put a little coat of white down on the base. The fun thing about this, though, I feel like, is you can experiment. So, do one with just white down, do one with just like a puddle. Just play a little bit, That's the great thing about pouring in art. It doesn't have to be perfect. Now, I had posted recently that I did some intuitive art, which was hard for me because I am a little bit of a planner, a little bit of a control freak, but like to a certain extent. So I like to, I start with something in mind, and then I just sort of let it go a little bit where it wants to go, but I still, I still usually have a plan. Being completely intuitive is difficult for me. But I do like to play around and experiment a little, and so I would just encourage, you to kind of do the same if you can. It's hard. I mean, it is what it is, right? We're all different. Okay, so you'll see that that was pretty fluidy, and I just put it down across the whole thing. And so I'm going to just do some colors here. Let's see. We'll do some peach. We'll do some green. And the gold. A little bit of the gold. I'm trying to think about how I want to do this. I'll do a couple of different things. So here's one thing that I like to do a lot. So I'll do the puddle pour and then just do, one drip in the middle, and then, oops, where did my straw go? Oh, here it is. Sorry, not prepared. Okay, and then kind of like when you're doing the flower blow, I just sort of blow it all around. So here we go. And one thing I'm gonna do before I do that is I see a bunch of bubbles in there. I'm just gonna do this before I pour, so I can try to get most of the bubbles out before I pour. I don't always like them to be in there. So here we go. Sorry, the camera's kind of in the way, so it's a little... I know you got my head on that shot, so sorry for that. I just had to blow this way. Okay, so there's that first one. This is a lot of times what I like to do, and this one, for example, was a lot like that. So this one, you can already see there's some awesome webbing. Just using my fingers here to kind of pull the paint off to the side. You don't even have to. You can just leave a white space if you want to. I mean, that would be cool too. Yeah, so it's getting these nice natural cells. I like to use the flame a lot of times before. Oh my gosh, my hair. Sorry, y'all. I like to use the flamer before I paint because, the cells do pop up naturally, but I don't always like the look of, doing the flame over the paint and having all of these cells come out. That is what I did here. And I mean, it is cool, but for me, I prefer this look where it's like you've got a lot of smooth paint, you've got some really cool cells. I just think it adds more interest. I mean, this is definitely interesting, but it's just too much going on. So that's just my personal preference. I also really like to see a lot of the colors. Like here you can see the white kind of goes out, and then the peach sort of does this really nice fade to white. That's just cool. That's just my preference. Okay, so there was that one. Here, let's try another one. Okay, so I'm gonna just pour a little bit of the white down. We'll start with blue at the base, and we'll do light blue and maybe a little green. You can see I'm starting down at the bottom because I'm gonna sort of pour it upwards. And so there's a lot of paint on there. Okay, so then there's that one. All right, so there's that. And I didn't do the flame before. I just realized I didn't do the flame before I poured. So I'm gonna get a little bit more cells. And the other thing that sort of sometimes will happen if you don't do that, I'm trying to find an example, is that the paint will dry and it'll have these, I don't know if you can see it, it's got these little puck marks in it from bubbles that have popped. And you know, you can, once you varnish a couple of times and then you do the last layer of varnish, it should actually help that. So it doesn't look horrible, but there's that. Okay, and then let's try something else. Okay, now I'm gonna do, this is another pour that I do frequently. And it's just an open cup pour. All right, so let's try that one on these little guys. Put some white in there. Let's try some peach. I guess we'll try some light blue. I don't know. That might make it too muddy, but we'll see how it turns out. That. And I clearly did not mix up enough gold. But yes, gold. And then I always like to top it off with white here. Okay, see how that's doing. All right. Cool, love it, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, I love it, that's so cool. And it's just like gonna spread. I love it. That will be cool. I may come back to this and blow it a little bit once it kind of spreads, but that's fine. All right, there's that. Sorry, I had to pause it. My husband came down and I didn't want him to come in and interrupt. Okay, then let's see. What shall we do for the last one? Oh, I'll do a dip. How's that? All right, so then we'll pour a little of that. All right, what do I want? I'm kind of tired of this coral color. I guess I wish I'd mixed up more colors, but that's okay. We'll just do blues and greens. That's always nice. All right. See if we can get a little gold in there. Oops, sorry, I keep hitting my head on that thing. All right. And I'm just using a paper towel. And you, my sir, are going all over the place. Just put the paper towel, it looks like an avocado. Okay, put the paper towel, and then I just fold the edges up and pull up. There you go. That is cool. Look, that's cool too. No, I can't really save this, but it's cool. I love it. Neat. Now the bummer is, you know, I would normally try to tilt it a little bit to have it go that way, but whatever. Lots of cool white space. I may blow it over there a little bit and see. Or, you know, you can always move it via dipping. Let's see how that works. Nope, that didn't work in the least bit. Nope, not at all. Well, that's okay. It will dry and it's like, it'll be cool. Actually, no, I can see it. Maybe I'll do that again over here. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, y'all, it looks like a leaf. Oh, I love it. Let's see if we can do another one. Nope, not even, but that's okay. That's the great thing about art. See, those don't always come out as you expect. Okay, so we'll leave that be. I'm gonna leave these here. I may mess with this a little bit, but I'll let them dry, and then I'll come back and show you once they're dry. Okay, we are back. Everything is dry. A couple things to note before I start pulling this, you may notice a couple of things are different. So this one, of course, I kept messing with a little bit after I stopped filming, and it just turned into a total disaster. So then I just put some paint on and blue on it, which was really cool. And then I kind of was messing with this one too. I was trying to mess with the edges, and then I was messing over here, and I blew over here, and you know how it goes. But anyway, the other thing that I kind of did last night was before you peel it up, you really want all of the edges to be dry, and of course the piece to be dry. So it's been 24 hours here. But anyway, you want the tape to be dry, because if the tape is wet, then the underneath paper is wet, and when you try to peel it up, you'll get these little ragged edges. So I just kind of pushed away some of the extra paint around the edges just to make sure that it was just going to fully dry overnight, and it did. So let's go ahead and just peel some of these off. And I just, it is painter tape, which is pretty good, but I just like to try to be gentle and pull it off. And the cool thing is, to some extent, because like this one looks really weird, but I don't know, I found like when you pull off the tape and you have the nice edges, it still ends up looking really good, even if you think it sort of looks weird. Give it a chance and see what you end up with. Because just like pouring, you never know. Well, I know for a fact this one looks really cool. Not too keen on the colors, but although, you know what, this is gold. I guess it looks brown in this light, but it's actually gold. It's actually that awesome golden gold. So I'll see if I can catch the shimmer in a minute. All right. And I'm just kind of pulling away from the paint just so that it doesn't, pull up the paint. I'm trying to rip it, I guess, break the paint. But it comes off pretty easily, as you can see. No major issues, so that's great. Oops, nope, I spoke too soon. See, I just pulled too fast and it ripped the corner of that one. That actually can be repaired. When I'm done with this, I will be going over it with the varnish again, to seal it. Liquitex gloss varnish, and if you have a little corner that peels up, you can actually seal it back down with a little bit of glue and then gloss varnish over it, and it's perfectly fine. That was, look, another one. That was totally Murphy's Law, wasn't it? As soon as you say something. All right, so here's our last bit. Cool. Okay. Don't they look cool? Right? Even this one, which, it's not my favorite of all, but it's not horrible once you kind of peel it all off. And I don't know if you can see, but, oh yeah, you can see. I mean, look at that gold. It's so pretty. Look at this one's beautiful. The gold is beautiful and shimmery. It's the coral and then the green and the gold. Looks really cool. This one looks neat. This one looks real neat. I mean, not as much of a fan of this piece over here, but it still looks good. And this one, that looks great. I'm kind of glad I ended up doing it this way because I love how it came out. One thing I'm going to show you, if you can see it. Okay, so remember, yesterday, I did the flame before I did the blowing, right? And I'm not sure if you can tell, but this actually looks really good. I don't see any little divots. The paint, looks pretty smooth. This one, I believe, is one of the ones that I forgot, and the paint was a little bit thicker. And I actually see a few little divots here. So, whether you use your flameage before you blow it out or after, you know, to get more cells. Either way, definitely do that because, you know, when the paint dries, you'll get those little divots. Now, the one good thing is yesterday, so this is one with divots that has some divots. You can probably still see it because this is when I was still kind of learning and I didn't do the flame before I blew. But I'm going over it with the gloss varnish, and it will start to fill in some of them. I mean, they're not going to totally disappear because in some cases, you know, it was a bubble underneath and then there's white underneath. So you can actually see the little white bubbles. But in some cases over here, it was the same color underneath. So when the bubble popped and then just kind of sat there, it's actually the same color. So it fills in some of those nicely. So it doesn't look horrible, and certainly from a distance it looks really cool, but you know, that's just, you learn as you go. Here was another one from yesterday. I put a gloss varnish on it. So this one, just as an example, I forgot to do the gloss varnish before the painting, and you can kind of see it's, I mean, slightly, but it's just a little bit wobbly, right? It's like, it's not totally flat. But these, I mean, look. So as long as you do the gloss varnish first, about 2 coats, it really helps to seal it so that the, you know, the paper doesn't get too moist and it can reshape itself. You will see when it's in the drying process, it will bow just a tiny bit, but no worries, it dries and it flattens out as long as you've done the varnish. Otherwise, you get something a little bit more, you know, kind of like this, where it's, you know, I don't know if you can tell, but it's bowed slightly. Now, I'll spray the back of it at some point and flatten it back out. So that shouldn't be an issue. But anyway, so that is the process. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you can make these little cards. Again, it's a nice way to test colors. It's, you know, they just look really pretty. I found these frames on sale at Target for $2 on clearance. And I'm going to pop some of the pictures in there. So I think it'll look really cool. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.